The turquoise pickup
need to be
truck
careful.
rumbled to a stop in front of the weathered farmhouse
something
as the
strange
golden
going on
light
around
painted
here.
everything in warm amber tones. 26-year-old Elizabeth clutched her worn leather suitcase with white knuckles, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and resignation. Her long blonde hair hung in loose waves around her shoulders, and her cream-colored dress with tiny roses, though modest and well cared for, could not hide the fact that she had always been fuller-figured than society deemed acceptable. Her stepfather's harsh words from that morning still rang in her ears. "Elizabeth, this arrangement solves multiple problems. We can finally be rid of the financial burden you have been, and this farmer fellow gets himself a wife to help with his work." Elizabeth had lived with cruel comments about her weight and unmarriageability for most of her adult life. When her stepfather's gambling debts had mounted beyond his ability to pay, he had jumped at the opportunity presented by James Sullivan's unusual proposal. "He is just some poor country farmer," her stepmother had said with obvious disdain. "But he has offered to clear our debts in exchange for marriage to you. Consider it your way of finally contributing something useful to this family." Now, as Elizabeth stepped down from the truck bed where she had ridden like cargo, she felt like a piece of unwanted furniture being delivered to its final destination. Her stepfather barely acknowledged her as he unloaded her few possessions. "James Sullivan should be around here somewhere," he muttered. "Remember, Elizabeth, you are his problem now. Try not to be more trouble than you are worth." As if responding to his words, two figures approached from the direction of the barn. The first was clearly James Sullivan himself, a man in his early 30s with sandy brown hair and striking green eyes. He wore a blue checkered work shirt and sturdy jeans, and his movements carried the easy confidence of someone who had spent his life working the land. Beside him walked an older gentleman with silver hair and a full beard, wearing simple farm clothes but carrying himself with unmistakable dignity. This had to be James's father, sharing the same strong features and gentle demeanor. "Miss Elizabeth," James said quietly, removing his hat as he approached. "I am James Sullivan, and this is my father, Robert Sullivan. We are honored to welcome you to our home." Elizabeth was immediately struck by the genuine warmth in his voice. Unlike other men who had looked at her with disgust or dismissal, James's gaze held only kindness and what appeared to be sincere welcome. "I realize this situation is far from ideal for you," James continued with careful consideration. "But I want you to know that you will be safe and respected here. This is your home now, and you should feel free to make it truly yours." Elizabeth's stepfather completed his business with obvious haste, eager to return to town with his debt forgiveness secured. As the truck disappeared in a cloud of dust, Elizabeth stood alone in the farmyard with her suitcase and her overwhelming uncertainty about the future. "Come along," James said gently. "Let me show you around. You must be exhausted from the journey, and I imagine you could use a good meal and some rest." As they walked toward the farmhouse, Elizabeth began to notice details that surprised her. While the house itself was unpretentious and practical, the property extended much further than she had initially realized. Well-maintained pastures stretched to the horizon, dotted with healthy cattle, and she could see several large barns and outbuildings in the distance. The house, though simple in its exterior appearance, proved to be spacious and comfortable inside. The kitchen was enormous and welcoming, with a massive cast-iron stove and a solid oak table that could easily accommodate a large family. "I know it is not elegant," James said with a touch of uncertainty, "but we have tried to make it comfortable and practical. Your bedroom is upstairs, the first room at the top of the stairs. You have complete privacy there, and I want you to know that you set the boundaries for our relationship." Elizabeth was surprised by this consideration. She had expected to be treated as little more than unpaid domestic help. Robert Sullivan spoke for the first time, his voice carrying warmth and genuine kindness. "Elizabeth, my dear girl, I want you to understand that James is a man of honor. He will never pressure you or make you uncomfortable in any way. We both hope that given time, you might come to feel that this is truly your home." That first evening, as Elizabeth sat at the kitchen table sharing a hearty meal of fried chicken and fresh vegetables from their garden, she began to realize that her preconceptions about her new life might be completely wrong. Both James and Robert treated her with a level of respect and consideration that she had never experienced. They asked about her background, listened attentively to her responses, and seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts and perspectives. When she mentioned that she enjoyed cooking and had always dreamed of having a large garden, James's entire face brightened with enthusiasm. "We have plenty of space for whatever kind of garden you might want," he said eagerly. "I would love to help you plan and plant it come spring. Fresh vegetables always taste better when they are grown with care and attention." Over the following weeks, Elizabeth discovered that life at the Sullivan farm was completely different from anything she had imagined. James rose before sunrise each day to handle his various responsibilities, but he always made sure she had everything she needed and never made unreasonable demands on her time or energy. Gradually, Elizabeth began to understand the true scope of the Sullivan agricultural operation. What had appeared to be a modest family farm was actually a highly successful and extensive enterprise. James owned thousands of acres of prime agricultural land, maintained several hundred head of premium cattle, and held profitable contracts with distributors across multiple states. "Why did you never correct my stepfather's assumptions about your financial circumstances?" Elizabeth asked one evening as they sat together on the front porch, watching the stars emerge in the clear country sky. James was silent for several moments, his hands resting comfortably on his knees. "Your stepfather made it abundantly clear that he was looking for someone to solve his financial problems, not someone to cherish and care for his stepdaughter. I thought if he understood the full extent of our holdings, his motivations might become even more purely transactional." "And what were your own motivations?" Elizabeth asked softly, genuinely curious. James turned to meet her eyes with complete honesty. "Loneliness, if I am being entirely truthful. This operation has been financially successful, but it has also been emotionally empty. When I learned about your circumstances through mutual acquaintances in town, I thought perhaps we might be able to provide each other with what we both needed." As winter gave way to spring, Elizabeth found herself settling into the rhythms of farm life with unexpected joy and satisfaction. She discovered that she had a natural talent for managing household budgets and began assisting James with business correspondence and record-keeping. Her attention to detail and innate intelligence impressed both men tremendously. More importantly, she began to feel genuinely valued and appreciated for perhaps the first time in her adult life. James consistently sought her input on important decisions, and Robert treated her with the affection and respect of a beloved daughter. The changes were not only emotional but physical as well. The regular, nutritious meals, outdoor activities, and genuine happiness began to transform her appearance. While she remained fuller-figured, her posture straightened with newfound confidence, and her eyes began to sparkle with vitality and contentment. One warm May evening, as they sat together in the garden she had planted and tended with such care, James set aside the farm journal he had been reviewing and looked at Elizabeth with unusual seriousness. "Elizabeth, there is something I need to tell you, and I hope you will not think badly of me for it." Elizabeth felt a flutter of anxiety. Had she somehow disappointed him? "When this arrangement first began, I had hoped we might develop a practical partnership that would benefit us both," James continued carefully. "But over these past months, my feelings have evolved into something much deeper and more meaningful." He paused, clearly gathering his courage. "I have fallen completely in love with you, not just as a partner in this enterprise, but as the woman I want to build a life with. You bring intelligence and warmth and joy to everything around you." Elizabeth felt her eyes fill with tears of happiness and relief. "James, You do not need to respond immediately," he said quickly. "I simply wanted you to know that if you ever choose to make this marriage a true union in every sense, it would bring me more happiness than I ever thought possible." Elizabeth looked at this kind, successful, honorable man who had shown her more genuine love and respect in 8 months than she had received in her entire previous life. "I love you too," she said with quiet certainty. "You have given me something I never dared to hope for, a place where I am valued for who I truly am, not judged for failing to meet impossible standards." The following autumn, they held a second wedding ceremony, this time as a joyous celebration of genuine love rather than financial necessity. Elizabeth had blossomed into a confident, radiant woman who managed both household affairs and significant aspects of the farm business with remarkable skill and intelligence. When her step-family learned of James's true wealth and prominent position in the agricultural community, they attempted to re-establish contact and claim credit for the successful match. Elizabeth politely but firmly declined their overtures, having learned that real family is built on love and mutual respect, not obligation or convenience. Years later, as Elizabeth watched their children play in the same farmyard where she had once stood feeling unwanted and afraid, She marveled at the unexpected directions that life can take.